Hey guys, it's PK here. Hope you're doing awesome. Today I want to talk about something a bit different, and it's actually a strategy call that I had. You won't believe it, but it was a strategy call with a 16-year-old. And so I was on this strategy call, and I always try to understand the person's situation and circumstances just to make sure that I can actually help them. So I was asking this 16-year-old, and you're probably watching, he's probably watching, so I'm not going to mention him or anything like that out of privacy, but I asked him, why does he want to invest in property? And he said this most amazing thing. He said two things. I see people around me, I see my parents, I see my family, I see adults working 9 to 5, which is more like 7:30 to 6 p.m. The 9 to 5 has become more like 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I don't want that life. Of course, I know that property investing is not get rich quick, especially if you're doing it passively, but I don't want that life. This is what he told to me, 16 years old, right? And so, imagine if I'd started at 16. Imagine if those of you who are watching who are already property investors, imagine if you'd started at 16 years old. 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, teenagers are so much more clued on, so much more intelligent, so much more switched on than we were back in that time, right? When we were younger. He already knows that the 9 to 5, 7:30 to 6 p.m., the rat race is not what he wants to do, right? It takes us, my average client, my typical client is between sort of 30 to 40, has a couple of young kids, mum and dad investors, finally wanting to jump onto the property ladder and get ahead, generate some passive income so that they can reduce their hours. But this person, 16-year-olds, this guy, he's already thinking about that. So kudos to him. So that's the first thing he said, right? I want to get out. I'm not even in the rat race, but I want to get out of the rat race ASAP. And the second thing he said, which I wanted to share with you, and I know that you'll love this a lot, is that I want to invest in property so that I can get ahead and help others, right? So I want to get ahead, learn how to do this myself so that I can help others. Now, when I was 16, I wasn't thinking about helping others, all right? I don't know about you, but that was definitely not me, at least not to that extent. But this individual, this kid, I don't want to call him this kid because he's much more mature than I was at 16. He's already thinking that he wants to help others because he knows that this industrial revolution, which started in the 1900s, the 18th century, the 1800s, 1900s, has trapped 99% of the world's population in unmeaningful work, right? And so he wants to help others escape that, even though he's not tasted it himself. But he has first-class intelligence. He knows when he looks around, he knows that no one likes it. And he already is thinking ahead, saying, how do I achieve this for myself? Passive income so that I can leave. And how do I help others? And that's a really phenomenal thing because, when we're down and out, when we're not feeling great, when we're anxious, when we're depressed, or when we're stressed out, the really good way, or a really good way to overcome those feelings is simply to serve others. When we're feeling really horrible about our lives, a really easy, quick way to alleviate or liberate yourself from that feeling of pain is simply to look around and find someone that you can serve, someone you can help, and help them, right? It switches the focus away from internally, away from myself, me and I, to someone else. That act of service, selflessness, actually elevates our consciousness and makes us so much more happier. So this 16-year-old is already doing that. And so that's really what I wanted to share today. Property investing, don't wait till you're 40, don't wait till you're 45, don't wait till you're 50. As soon as you have $30,000 to $40,000, now I'm not in the business of convincing you to invest in property. You can do whatever you like. But if you're thinking about investing in property, the 16-year-old has really inspired me because when I was having this conversation with him, it was just super enlightening. If you can start early, then you can get so much more advanced. You can actually escape the 9 to 5 by the time you're 30, by the time you're 35, right? It takes about 10 to 15 to 20 years really in the passive strategy to really escape that need to work, to trade time for money, right? Of course, there are other ways to go about it. You can do development, you can do subdivision, really accelerate that journey. And when I first started, I never thought that I would be doing those things. I didn't have the confidence or the skills or the mindset, but I've, progressed and evolved and done so much more. But it all comes down to education and taking that first step, right? Get the education, take the first step, just like this 16-year-old is doing. He's already thinking like that. And you can just tell that when someone's 16 and they are thinking about when they're 25 and they're already thinking about their finances, you just know that that person, by the time they're 30, they're going to be set up for life, right? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that level of proactiveness, that level of attunement with what's going on in the world and how people are frustrated with their jobs. He is well, truly ahead of where I was at 16, and is probably going to catch up and take over as well, supersede me. So look, the message of this video was really two things. Start as soon as possible. Of course, you need to be vigilant and relatively prudent with your risk. Don't just put all your money in property investing. Don't have zero cash buffers, right? But the thing with property investing is that it doesn't cost you any money to hold a property every year. Rents cover all the expenses, and plus you can use data to find high capital growth areas. Okay, so get in as soon as you can. And the second thing that I learned from the 16-year-old was to serve others, right? When you learn property investing, when you succeed in property investing, just think a little bit about the number of people that you can actually help. It's not just about you. Of course, as they say on the airplane, when something goes wrong, put the oxygen on yourself first and then help your son, daughter, family members, etc. But make sure you do help those other people. Don't just do it for yourself. It gives you so much more meaning, gives you so much more fulfillment. I can tell you right now, I mean, it's kind of midday here in Brisbane and don't really have anything to do because my son is sleeping in his midday nap. And I'm just, there's nothing to do, right? If you don't have anything to utilize to help others, and even if you do have a passive income, even if you don't need to work, you're not going to be happy. Okay, money in the bank, even passive income, does not guarantee happiness. What you need is some sort of mission, some sort of purpose, some sort of passion that you can use to help others. And this is what I really increased my conviction in when I was on this call with the 16-year-old. We were talking for about 20 minutes until I asked him how old he was. So it was pretty phenomenal. So hopefully that's inspiring for you as well if you are on the sidelines thinking about when it is that I should start my property investment journey. There's so many reasons to say today, this month, this year is not the right time, right? So much uncertainty with work, so much uncertainty with COVID-19, so much uncertainty in general. People's mindsets aren't quite there because of all the trauma that 2020 has presented. But ask yourself, if it's not going to be this year, when is it going to be? If you have the requisite funds available, $30,000 to $40,000, and if you have a job that pays at least $50,000 per annum, then there is no reason for the majority of people why you shouldn't be able to get a loan to actually start your property investing. And like I said, this is not a get-rich-quick thing. It takes time, but the longest journey starts with the first step. That's what Confucius said. So really take inspiration. This isn't a data post. This isn't me telling you a strategy or a technique or a skill. This is simply trying to enthuse you, motivate you, give you some sort of burning platform to say, if a 16-year-old can do this, so can you. Most of you that are probably watching this video are in your late 20s, 30s, you're probably married or in a relationship. You might even have one or two children. and you're still umming and ahhing about whether you should buy that first property or expand your portfolio. And of course, it's not a blanket yes you should, but definitely yes you should take the next step and see seriously whether you really want to go all in and try to develop a passive income from property. Because if you can get there, I can tell you it's a pretty good feeling.